It says we're going live. Is this thing live? It looks like yes. What is happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. So, I did Hellcat, and I didn't really give a super in-depth set of reasons why. I mean, yeah, I kind of did say a few of the reasons, but I guess I should expand on a few of those. And probably more to the point, what has got me more or less turned off by the whole car scene in general. It's not something that is a recent development. This is kind of a bit of a problem with me in cars just in general, that has really turned me off as far as wanting to jump in the middle of a build or wanting to tackle something cool that is more automotive, and probably why I am leaning so heavily towards motorcycles. So let's dive into this. First thing, look, it's such an annoying phenomenon right now, just the sheer cost of what it takes to get into some of these cars these days. Realistically, if I were to do a build today, I've really got to break down as far as what would be the best for me, just what would I be interested in. But more to the point, it would be what would be interesting to you, the viewer. What would you like to see built? And a lot of guys were saying, man, I'd really like to see something along the lines of, an RT, a 5.7 platform car. And, people will cite other YouTubers, look at how this person has done or that person has done with a 5.7 car. And there is some truth to that. Some of my more popular, more successful videos that I've made have been about the 5.7, particularly what works and what doesn't when we're talking about modifications for the Hemi. But with my local drag strip shutting down, the only thing that I would have to give you guys is draggy footage. And draggy footage and ride-along videos historically didn't do all that well, and they're typically not something that guys were all that interested in. Most folks wanted to see dyno results or this or that, or 0 to 60, quarter mile stuff, whatever. But realistically, I've kind of, in a way, already gone down that path. I mean, I've got my Ram 1500 footage, and, I actually thought that was going to do a little bit better than it did. Not a big deal, though. But really, none of that is a bit of a passion project for me. I don't look at those cars and just go, oh, my goodness, I can't wait to do an RT Challenger, an RT Charger. It just doesn't get the blood flowing the way that a Hemi Swap D100 or a D150 would, which is to say a Gen 3 Hemi Swap pickup truck from, say, the late 60s through the 70s. Or, how maybe a Duster or a Dart would be a really fun project to do, like an entire 5.7 or 6.1 swap along with a NAG 1, that transmission. That would be a really neat project. The only problem is, well, we got to get into the thing that's killing it for me right now. And that's the price of it. Guys, I don't know when. It was sometime around 2018 or 2019, maybe 2017. The prices of these cars that you could build up, like the old school cool stuff, just got astronomical. I'm not talking about the Hemi Challengers or Cudas or none of that stuff. What I'm talking about are some of the cars that really should never have been on anybody's radar. Your Aspens, Aspen RT, cool car I was looking into. The Magnums would have been a fun one to play with. These are all Dodge cars that are kind of obscure. The later Satellites would have been cool. This is kind of the trend, though. I would look for the car that Darts and Dusters. Yeah, just forget about it. But the thing is I would start looking into these cars, and even the ones that you would think would be practically like just a donation of a car, if you will. If somebody's like, God, somebody come get this thing out of my yard. One of two things would come up with that, or a combination of the two. One, it would be a nice car, but whoever had it would be asking way too much money for it. Like some of the numbers that I was seeing and some of the numbers that were floated my way, it would complete non-starter. I mean, I wouldn't even talk to these guys. It wouldn't be worth my time. The second thing that was happening is I would think, okay, well, maybe I found a car that would be a good place to start for a Hemi swap. Put one of my cams together, put a small converter in this thing, and just go out and have a lot of fun with it. Well, a couple of issues there. One, some of the buckets that I was finding they still wanted $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 for, which, guys, listen, God love you if you can get that kind of money for some of the junk that I was seeing out there. But the reality is that you had these Bondo bombs that were running around that people were asking a ton of money for. There were flipper cars out there that I had found that, and that's, we'll get to the flipper thing here in a minute, but there are quite a few that I had found that I just, at some point, you keep looking at the values, you start questioning people's sanity, and realistically, you're just going to check out. It's just not fun anymore to feel like the conversation can't even start. Again, the numbers were literal non-starters for me. I was not even going to pick up the phone and send a text or call somebody back that said, hey, I've got a dart, and send me some pictures. And it's this, I mean, it might've been cool in like 91, but this thing is garbage by today's standards. And they're asking $10,000, $15,000 for this thing. So there's that. But the other thing is that you start watching some of these car shows that are on TV, and they are unwatchable to me. It would be great if all of us could partake in the lifestyle and in the spirit of some of these builds. But I mean, even junkyards have gotten wise to this, and you just can't find things to have fun with, at least not in a budget-friendly sense. Because you got to remember, if I'm doing a build, it's got to at least be able to, be interesting to more than just a few folks. And like I say, I just really couldn't get into it. And again, we can talk about, the track closing. That was a major, major killer for me. Is not only the track closing, but it was the track, Houston Raceway Park closing, but it was basically, with that track closing, it was in essence me breaking ties with a bunch of people that I had kept up with and had kept up with me for so long. These are a lot of the same people that I would make sure had a slot at that track rental so that they could break a record. Haven't seen from them since. Not that, people grow apart and, whatever. But I guess the reality here is that without a place to test locally, I have really no way to qualify or quantify anything I'm doing, again, unless I've got the draggy footage, or unless I am now traveling to go to different venues. And the issue with that is, well, do you drive it or do you trailer it? Well, I got to call people up and say, hey, listen, heading to your town, you got a place to stay. You start getting into the expenses and everything else that come with it. It does get expensive. So now I'm not just looking at the prospect of the build of the car. Now it's, where do I take it and how do I make this thing competitive, or at least put it in an environment that will give it the best opportunity to have the best look. It's weird. You have like different legs that are holding up this stool, and that track was a big reason and a big thing about that. So, but the thing that sucks is that the hunt was so, for a project car, was so fruitless. I mean, it really was. So anyway, that's one of the things. The main part of it here, I guess, the overall value of this is, it was just the money part of it. It was just way too much money to try to get into something cool, or at least something worth talking about. Plus the time and the space. Guys, I got to tell you, it's hard for me to put into words how frustrating it can be when you're trying to put a build like this together and you start to rely on other people for either labor or for, it could be anything, fabrication, stuff like that, stuff that I can I can do about 80%, 75 to 80% of the work on my car, but there are some things that I need to farm out, either because of time, expertise. These are people that just have the tools to do it. And so there's that aspect of it too. It is a bit of a hassle to deal with a car, to load the thing up onto a trailer and get it to a shop that's God only knows where, to get some of the stuff done that you really need done to get one of these things accomplished. And I started looking at platforms. I was looking at platforms that were the easiest, that would have been the easiest to do as a one person build. In other words, okay, you've got you and a 2-car garage and a car. Go, have at it. And I was looking at it from the point of view of doing Gen 3 Hemi swap, and that was the main crux of trying to find like a truck, because a truck would be the easiest to work on. You basically just take the whole doghouse off the front of the thing and you can just work on it and it's all right there. Here's the problem with that. Remember what I was talking about? Like some of these cars that I was looking for, I would find them and they were just pieces of junk. I really wanted a truck more than anything. I didn't want a car because the cars were A, too expensive, and B, really easy to, it's easy to sucker somebody if you are a car flipper. So I was looking at trucks, and the trucks that I was looking at, guys, I'm not kidding. I found one that I thought would have been a super cool truck to do a build off of, only to find out that this thing was just eaten alive by rust. It was just a rust bucket. And God, there's only so much you can do to help to salvage something that is that far along. This thing would have needed a new cab. It was a sweet 77 D150 V8 truck. Thought that it would have been a fantastic platform to build this really fun 392, 5.7 392 stroker truck out of. Had, again, one of my cams, nag one, just something that would do long, stupid smoky burnouts until you got bored with it. But that truck was probably one of the, it was like which straw broke the camel's back? Man, I don't know, but it was like a handful of straws that were sent to do the devil's work on that. And sure enough, that was one of them. It just absolutely killed me on it. And so getting to the car flipper thing, this is the other deal. I had gone to Mecum at one point and was looking to see if I could pick something up. And the problem is that you get a lot of guys that will take, say, a Duster. It doesn't matter what it is, a Duster or an AMX or a Javelin or something like that. And they will Bondo this thing. They will body work it to death. And I'm not kidding. You might have an extra 30 pounds worth of mud on this car. But damn if it doesn't look good, especially from about 5 feet away. And they'll parade these things out, and it's cream puff and all this other stuff. I mean, you start diving into these cars, none of the bushes have been replaced. Any rubber parts in the car, for that matter, are just shot. Brake lines still need to be replaced. The fact that this thing would even pass inspection is like, they're basically, some of these flipper cars really are overwhelmingly dangerous. Like you would be in physical, like real physical danger to ride in some of these cars. And so the more I started looking into that, the deeper I would look at cars that I was looking at already. And the more I would find that these things were just getting worse and worse with every layer that you pulled back, in some cases, literally. With every layer I would pull back, they were just getting worse and worse and worse. Guys, you're not going to be able to roadkill yourself into a safe vehicle. That's not how this stuff works. If you want something that's safe for you to drive around, for your family or your friends to be kicking it with you in that car, you need something that's not going to basically disintegrate if you get hit by another vehicle, something weird happens, car gets squirrely or whatever. Car could get squirrely because something broke, because the fasteners were shot or the bushings were shot, all of that. So these are reasons why I decided to, man, look, I gotta start stepping away from the car scene, because there's too much of a vacuum being created now. And what I mean by that is there's too many new cars that have come out that are just that good. In other words, take the S650 Mustang, for example. For a lot of people, the S650 Mustang is the final nail in the coffin, if you will, in terms of modern V8 muscle car, pony car, whatever you want to call it. The S650 Mustang is probably the last nail in the coffin for a lot of people because it is now the horsepower king of all of the NA hot rods that either are available or are soon to not be available. If that makes any sense. It's the last of the real hot rods, and nobody else is playing catch up. Dodge won't give us any kind of a clue, hint, wink, nod, whistle about what they're going to do with that Hurricane 6 as it pertains to a new car. I know that there's some people thinking that they know the insider information about what they're going to do with that engine. Listen, until I hear it from Dodge, it's just a bunch of conjecture. I think really where I'm at with all of this is that, you know, there's nothing really to talk about when it comes to modern hot rods, except for the Mustang. 392s are going away. Hellcats are going away. And, well, all of the variants thereof. The 170 is just now hitting the streets, and it's a legit low 9, high 8-second car. Fantastic in the right hands at the right track, right prep, with the right density, altitude, with the right fuel, with potentially the right weight-saving modifications, with the right tires, which are stock, but with the right tire pressure, which is suspect. There's so many caveats, but it is doable. So there's that. But that's it. And the other thing, too, is that these cars have gotten so obnoxiously fast. And the interesting thing with that is in the motorcycle world, cars, or motorcycles, I should say, as they've gotten faster and faster and faster and faster, they've created this vacuum. So it's just kind of spread itself out, and now you've got this new open space. And that's where a lot of the Neo Retros are coming in. The Z900 RS, the Speed Twin from Triumph, the Thruxton, the Bonneville, for example. The XSR 900, the CBX 1000. There's a lot of these bikes that are really kind of filling in this void of fast motorcycle, but not so fast that you can't use it, and so much power that you're constantly riding a nanny to just get the thing down the road in a fun way. Well, the problem with cars is that they've kind of gone that route. The Hellcat screwed it up for everybody because, keep in mind, before the Hellcat came out, the 392 was the most powerful naturally aspirated engine that you could get your hands on in a mass-produced platform. But, you know, you got the Hellcat, the ZL1, the ZR1, the GT500, the later ones, which are just obnoxiously fast and obnoxiously clinical. And there's a lot of folks that want that analog feeling. They want that big double meat burger that you just kind of smear all over your face, as opposed to this just absolutely clinical cut of meat that these cars are offering up. And the more you dig into them, the more you see this. I mean, even cars like the new Supra or the Z400, the Nissan Z car, they're even getting a little bit too clinical as well. But the Z car is a little bit analog-ish, at least still. But that's beside the point. That car is not on the Hellcat's power level platform, nor is it on the 392's power level or platform. So again, you start to create this vacuum. Certain vehicles start to fill it. With the cars, it's the Supra and the Z400 more than any other car. You may see something coming from Dodge with that Hurricane 6, but we don't have it yet. And again, because there's nothing to look forward to, you got to start making decisions, and you got to start taking a look at what will fit into the budget, what will make sense long-term, and what will make sense just from will this be kind of a fun thing to get into? But I think the other side to this is that, you know, I keep talking about that whole budget thing. I think that there's a misunderstanding or a misconception of how expensive some of this stuff can be, how much money it takes to put a build together. Again, I blame car content television for this. And there's some channels that can kind of get thrown into that too. They can get some, but I guess where I'm going with is this. You watch car content TV and it's, oh, we found a rusted out Hulk, and then cut to montage. Da, 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 da. Next thing you know, it comes out and it's this thing of beauty. It's a work of art. They've got this team of people working on these cars. So let me break something down for you. When you're watching something like that, they really do go soup to nuts. That's about $250,000 build on average. These projects will have obnoxious levels of billable hours in terms of labor, parts, and everything else that's included with these things. It is an obnoxious price that these things are costing. And even if you get into something and you find something that is at least serviceable, like say you go out and you do find a Dart or a Duster, or I don't know, pick something cool, AMX that's serviceable, you're still going to be into that thing for a significant chunk of change to do it right. And that's the other side to this. To do it really, really do it right is going to cost a chunk of money that you'll never see again, because nobody would spend the kind of money on a passion project unless it's their own. And for the most part, that's what a lot of these builds wind up being. So I watch that, car content TV. I watch this stuff, and a part of me feels sorry for the guy that's putting the build together. I just look at this and I go, man, you're spending an awful lot of money. It's a coffin car. I get it, but do you really like it that much? Once it's all said and done, you see him. Oh yeah, it's great. I love it. It's everything I could have ever hoped it to be. It's really kind of a fake smile. I don't know. I find it a bit curious when I'm watching that stuff. I'll watch it, and I'm watching these people. I'm watching their body language and how they act. And it's I don't know. It seems a little too scripted, and it seems a little too made up, but the money, the dollars and cents of it, that part of it is real, at least in terms of what it can cost. But let me get with you guys. Check in. Limestein's in. Where you at? Here in the studio. Ryan's in. What's up, Professor? What's up, Ryan? No, Ab is in. DM's got it. Got the cadence down with the flex and ball guy with shades. Ryan, thoughts on an 68 AMC Ambassador SST Coupe? The Javelin I bought would wound up having too much cancer for my poly stroker build. Any of the AMC stuff is cool. I like the Ambassadors. Provided that they're not eaten alive. That's the only issue. Ryan saying, love the CF Moto, but looking at trading in on an Indian Scout Bobber. Very cool bike, by the way. Marco Muay Thai, what is up, man? Tad saying, Valari Roadrunner. That would be cool, actually, if you could find one. Ryan said, I was looking for a scam, and I was shocked at how many people figured out about the scam. Yeah, yeah, that was bad. Marco saying, Dodge cars, no. Dodge trucks, yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. I really wanted to do just a fun build on a pickup, and it did not go the way I thought it was going to. The funny thing is, it was finding a suitable truck a hell of a lot harder than you might think. A whole lot easier to find Chevrolet than it was Dodge. Oh, Ryan's saying there's two El Caminos and a 250-mile radius to me, one for $5,000 and a 74 SS 454. Not numbers matching, but $6,000. I mean, if they're complete cars, that'd be a sweet thing to start off with. But I mean, damn, down here, Elcos are turning into the Nova down here, which people that had Novas thought that they were worth way more than what they're really worth. DM saying with platforms like Bring a Trailer, everyone's a flipper and think they have gold. 75 to 100K for 60s Bronco. No shit, right? Scouties K5. I can't afford one, let alone a project. True that. What's funny is that the Scouts at one time were, and the Blazers at one time were disposable. Nobody wanted them, like, at all. In fact, Scouts were A really clean Scout would always be cool, but there was a lot of folks they would hear Scout and just head for the hills because parts were hard to come by. At the time, there were people that were wanting to put, just do the 350, the small block Chevy conversion on those things. Instead of running the 345, I really like the Scouts a lot. In fact, oh man, there's one for sale locally that if it wasn't so clean, I would buy it just to do an LS swap on it. Ryan saying found a bunch of good 80s Ram Chargers for 5 to 12 grand range that are still. So I found a couple of clean Ram Chargers, and part of me, so there was like a maroon and white one, the two-tone, that I came really close to buying. But then they wanted a little bit too much for it. The guy didn't want to come down off the price. I was actually hoping to get my hands on that one because that one would have been getting it would have been a budget 5.7 build. But yeah, the Ram Chargers are actually the least expensive of the two-door SUVs that you can find out there. And they are actually, some of them are still kept really nicely. A lot of the people that bought Ram Chargers are the same guys that would have bought the Grand Wagoneers back in the day. Oh, Rob saying the poly stroker I'm building, just dead set and putting it in a manual two-door coupe. Yeah, I'm the Ram Charger, man, really the Ram Charger would be nothing Hellcat. By the way, nothing Hellcat. It's your Revlon, but not really. If I were to put something together, it would be either a hot rodded 5.7 or a 392 or a 5.7 stroked to 392. I just maybe put a Pro Charger on it if I could get the inlet to be clean looking enough to have it pass. But that, for a build like that and a Ram Charger, I'm so over the Hellcat thing. I mean, I know I got the banner back there and all of that, but I'm just looking so far past it. And okay, so let me also give you guys. So let me get back to it. The Hellcat thing, the GT500, the ZL this and the ZR that, and blah, 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 whatever. They're no fun to me. This is the other part of this. I am really more of an NA guy because I want to be able to use the power that I bought. And one of the problems that I had with the Hellcat, and a lot of guys with Hellcats found this out, especially when they started putting money into them. You just don't ever drive them anymore. They're no fun. There is nothing more boring than driving a very fast car like a normal car. It sucks. There is nothing fun about a car that makes so much power that you can't really utilize it unless you're trying to make a blast above 100 miles an hour. Yeah, it's just, I know, and some of you guys are like, whatever, Mason. I'd love to have a Hellcat. They go rent one. Seriously, I'm not kidding. Find somebody that will rent you a Hellcat, go blast around in the thing, and then give it back to them. The two most fun parts of that experience will be getting the keys to the car the first time you nail it, and then giving the car back, because you'll find out pretty quickly that, it's no fun when you can't, for a number of reasons, utilize the power that you've got. Those reasons, what could they be? I don't know. Traffic laws, that might be, although those are usually, we take a lot of liberties with traffic laws down here. But that being said, traffic laws, but realistically, traffic just in general, road conditions, the threat of the thing blowing up if you're out there playing with it, especially if it's modified. That happens to happen a lot, by the way, guys. So that's why I kept saying, if you got a Hellcat, this is the direction I would go. If you want to go faster, great. But there are limits to this game. And again, that's one of the reasons why I'm just kind of done. I love the idea of the Hellcat. I think it's an amazing thing in general, but I'm glad I've had the opportunity to experience it. I've had a lot of success, and I've, gotten to meet a lot of people that I may not have been able to meet because of my experience with that car. But I'm telling you right now, would I do it again? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, I would be a lot more interested in something that was playful, that was fun, that would be lively to drive, that is a blast to run up to, say, 120, but something that is not going to start getting interesting until I'm past 120. And that's where the Hellcat really did come into play for me. And I would be a lot more interested in something that just was more of a real street car than a track car. So there's that. But let me catch back up with you guys. I don't know where I was going with that, but here we are. Let's see. Oh, Ryan saying, love the backyard find, cruising around here in Missouri. The car generation is gone and their kids are selling. Yeah. DM saying, Ram Chargers are sweet. Actually, believe it or not, that's where a lot of these Ram Chargers are coming from. Oh, DM saying in the last 3 years, even at 6 to 10 grand, I can't anymore. Exactly. I'm hemmed up too. And that's the thing. It's just a budget thing, guys. Oh, right. Yeah. No, listen, man, I mean, build it up, build a high ride. That's the thing. It's the neat part about it. Plus, it's a poly, so that makes it really cool. Arthur, thank you very much. Got the arm flex and the ball guy with the shades. Ryan's liking the Ram Charger with an Eco Diesel. That'd be a fun running truck. Hard Rock is in. Good evening. Pitch Black say, might sell my 19 Charger Scat Pack and then concentrate efforts on my mostly stock 03 Cat Eye Silverado. I'm telling you, in fact, I was talking to a dude the other day saying, well, I'm thinking about getting a box here. I'm thinking about getting an OBS. I'm like, dude, get you a Cat's Eye. I'm telling you, Cat's Eye will rip the heart out of fools if it's built right. Just saying. Because I almost built one. I came close to doing that. Oh, Hard Rock saying eco mode is, yeah, eco mode can be boring in the scat. J Master's got the cadence with the flex and the ball guy with the shades. Hope things are going well, my friend. Vince asked, getting the SRT back. Oh, Vince. Okay, so check this out. Did I mention this the other day? I pulled up to the gym because, you know, gym life, right? I pulled up to the gym and I swear I saw Shalandra. It was, if it wasn't Shalandra, it was Shalandra's twin sister, except it had brass monkey wheels on it. And I didn't get a chance. There's some telltale things with that car that I could look at and say, oh, there she is. And I didn't get a chance to go over there and just, you know, eyeball it, scope it out. I don't want somebody to think I'm trying to, you know, jack their car or anything. But yeah, I was looking at it thinking, man, that you look familiar. But yeah, I thought I saw that car. I know that somebody locally is still running around in it. You know, it'd be cool to see that car again. Skids is saying, good evening, gentlemen. Hey, B, what up, man? What up, man? Got a new bike for the stable. Looks like Thursday she'll be getting delivered. Picked up a bike for the wifey. So Mrs. Mason is going to have a new whip. Going to get her schooled up on the arts of riding. So I will be the caretaker of the new bike until she gets up to speed. But it's a bike that I have secretly been crushing on for quite a while and finally got a chance to ride it. And now I said, screw it. I'm bringing it home. It is a T120 Bonneville. Ryan saying, man, now that is gold, Missouri, 12 valve 5.9 Cummins. Yeah. That's an engine you can make decent power with and they'll last forever. Analog as hell. Oh, Lime saying a lot of times building a car ends up being a lot more fun than driving it, especially if it's way too fast. That a lot of guys are only in it for the build, and then they flip the car just to fund the next build. Great if you can sustain that, but I think a lot of times what ends up happening is some guys end up way upside down on that because what they're starting out with, the platform, the car that they're starting out with is just way too far gone. And I hate that for those guys. I mean, I feel my heart goes out to them because a lot of these guys, I mean, that's their life. They're just trying to do this to, they're just living life. And when things go poorly with a build like that, it just sucks because that's your outlet. And when that fails you, that's when a lot of guys just check out too. Pitch is saying car insurance has gone way past my limit for my scat. I get that. The Dream Quest, yeah. Oh, DM saying you saw a redone 12 valve leveled. Those are nice trucks. So you're saying, what's Ms. Mason going to be on? Send me for reveal vid. I get it. Oh yeah, it's her bike. 1200 is so smooth. Yeah, so I'm going to get her on, like an MSF bike. I'm going to be putting her through a full MSF. I'm going to pre-train her and I'm going to put her through MSF. She's really excited about getting on a bike, which I'm stoked about. But the main thing is, she's wanted a Bonneville for a long time. She's talked about the Bonneville before, and I found the absolute perfect Bonnie. And it's something that she can have pretty much forever. I mean, it's never going to be slow. It's always going to run well. And by the way, let me tell you guys something. This is no BS. The Bonnie, the 1200 Bonneville is faster than it really should be. I did not give it any credit. I figured it would just be motorcycle. That bike is actually this really is a Bonneville. That bike actually surprised me. So I hopped on the bike and I've got a bit of test loop that I run around that dealership and get on the bike and I'm running this thing around and it's just punchy, like way punchier than it should have been. And I was thinking about this thing. I was like, man, this is a fun ass bike to ride. And it looks the part. It's, twin disc up front. It's just a gorgeous bike to look at, but it is old school cool through and through with a big twist. This thing will cruise at 90 miles an hour with no problem. And well, let me rephrase that. It'll cruise at 80 with no problem, and it'll buzz to over 100 miles an hour with absolutely not a blink of the eye, just a twist of the throttle away. And I was impressed. I'm not kidding. I mean, the bike, you're not okay. And this, I get, this is another reason why I'm moving more and more away from the car scene. Is that the lack of diversity in the car scene for product is conspicuous and that's putting it politely. You've got Dodge, Ford, Chevrolet, Nissan, and Toyota. That's it. But you have two Dodges, well, now no Chevrolet, but maybe two Chevrolets, two Dodges, just in terms of what they look like, but the 5.7, the 6.4, and the Hellcat variant, and then the Z car and the Supra. But there's really not a lot of diversity out there. I like a lot of flavors. I like a very diverse palette. That's why the golden era of muscle cars was so cool. You like AMC? Awesome. Or you like something Mopar? Great. You've got Mopar's got 10 different cars you can pick from. AMC had 4 different cars. Chevrolet had just like it never stopped with Chevrolet. You had a lot of different really cool cars that you could call your own, and they were all different in all flavors. You just don't get that anymore. And what I'm discovering with bikes is that I can have my diversity within just one brand alone. I've got, but the thing about it is that they're all fun and they're all punchy and they're all really good at something that another one is not good at, which is neat, right? So that's what the whole reason for the Bonnie is for Mrs. Mason, because I want her to have something that is always going to be cool, that is always going to be fast, especially with her riding it, because she didn't weigh nothing. like I can literally have her weight in both of my hands, and I mean, just work out with that weight on dumbbell press. There's nothing to her. So for her, that bike is going to be a little rocket ship. It's nothing but torque. And it's just going to be so cool to share motorcycling with her once we get her up to speed. And yes, I'm going to do the walk it out drills with her. I'm going to make her do the figure 8 thing. All that stuff is going to be part of the training, but it's not going to be with the Bonneville. We're going to get, I don't know, just, insert generic 250cc motorcycle here for her to play around with, like a Rebel or something like that, something that she can just learn clutch friction zones and walk it out drills and figure 8s and start stops and, the goofy stuff that, MSF, goofballs like to teach. I'm going to pre-teach her, and then she's going to take her course test. But I tell you what, the thing that I like the most about that Bonneville is the fact that I was surprised by the performance of it. And you don't get that as much in cars. Not to mention, cars are just not as engaging of an experience. You put me on a slow motorcycle and I will have more fun, and I will be giddy and laughing and hooting it up on something that is considered to be slow, where you're not going to be like that in a car that's like that usually, because typically a car that's like that doesn't have a lot of redeeming values. But it's also the same with really, really fast stuff. Really, really fast, you can't do anything with it. It's not fun. It's boring. If a bike or a car looks or sounds a certain way, you almost feel obligated to be going 130, 150 miles an hour in the thing all the time, right? Whereas Scat Packs, I don't feel that. RTs, I don't really feel that. I just feel like they're more fun than fast. And that's a great place to be. The other thing is roll racing type stuff. Not a big fan so much of that anymore, even though you can't really see it. I almost said the Hellcat, the Viper back there, that's what we did. We did a lot of roll racing back in the day, mainly because we kept getting kicked out of drag strips. But it doesn't really hold a special place for me anymore. And so building a car like X's Mustang, nah, not really. And then somebody had asked me, well, what about getting an S650? I'm like, well, if I got an S650, that's already very low 11, very high 10-second car. It's already been done a Brazilian times. So again, the car thing, and again, it'd just be somebody else with another one of the same thing. Whereas there's so many, and by the way, with bikes, you can have 3 or 4 bikes for the cost of one of these cars, and you can have a different riding experience left, right, and center, as opposed to just one driving experience with a car. For example, next week, my Triumph Thunderbird and my Bonneville, my wife's Bonneville, will be, by the way, it is so freaking clean. It's gorgeous. The bike has now 803 miles on it. When I test rode it, it had 785. When it covered 800 miles, she was doing 105 miles an hour. So she's part of the family, boys. But today, like for example, I was able to ride the Bonneville. I was able to ride a 765, which a 765R, very steep bike, and a Speed Twin. All of which, even though the Speed Twin and the Bonneville share a lot in common as far as the engine goes, with the Speed Twin having different cams and making some more horsepower, but man, they're all very similar, but yet they're all so very, very different, and also gave completely different riding impressions. And I was able to hop from one to the next and notice a difference, and say that you could have all 3 in your garage and have a different riding experience on any given day, 3 or 4 times a day, for less than what it would cost for one of these cars. Now, granted, it's not a car, right? And I get that, but you could have 3 of these things for what it costs to get one of these other bikes. Actually, you could get 4 for what it would cost for one of these cars, and you'd be paying about the same in insurance for 4 bikes versus 1 car, and have a beater. Just saying. Tad's CTR. Not sure the Indian CT. Maybe I don't know. I don't know Indians that well. Any of the Indians are awesome though. Oh, Skid saying my wife's got on a lot of bikes. She is settled on a Honda CB300R. Very cool bike, by the way. Much to my chagrin, I was pulling for a Ninja 400 or Steph Moto SS 450, but I want her comfy and happy. Yeah, I think the CB300's got a lower seat height. The Aprilia RS 457, yeah. Dude, that'd be a sick. Yeah. And by the way, guys, and I'm going to be talking on Tribe a little bit more about this, but why displacement doesn't matter when it comes to motorcycles. That's going to be a topic that we're going to be talking about. DM saying, new Aprilia, yes. Oh, Skid saying, you mean an FTR? Maybe that's what it was. I don't like to say it. Indians are pretty sweet. Brian Tooley racing cams for the Mopars. They're all about the same now. A lot of these guys have fallen on the same specifications. They're all 220, 228 cams, 222, 228, 224, 230 cams. They're all the same. These are all cams that I put together years and years and years ago. Back when everybody was trying to run 10s with an NA 392, and we pretty much cracked that code with my first cam. Went a 1085, I think, at 121 miles an hour. I know, looking hard at that RS 457. Yeah. Oh, right. Saying that CF Moto 450 SS is fun as shit, but don't like the ride angle too much for far too long. I tell you what, you know, I'm just weird in the way that certain bikes fit me, and I pick up on weird quirks with ride angles for some reason. I'm so used to something that's more laid over, a bit more of an aggressive riding position. There certain bikes just feel weird to me. By the way, the Bonneville has a more aggressive riding position than the Speed Twin, so there is that. Oh, Skid saying, hey, Ryan, go get that Scout Bobber or Road. They ride so nice. And if I'm thinking clearly, less expensive than a Harley-Davidson Nightster 975. A lot of those bikes are very similar. Ryan's saying, plus the old lady wants to ride the Bobber, not the Moto. Good point. Tad saying it's the circle track racer. Dude, getting older, nothing new. So here's the cool thing today. This is what I like to see too. Today at the dealership, I kind of was the de facto sales guy for a little bit. And one of the cool things about being around the dealership today was how many people that are new to motorcycling were coming in and buying Triumphs. So we had folks that have only been riding since the spring that were looking at picking up a new bike. Guys are just getting their endorsements, are looking at new bikes. You've got folks that are young to riding and young in general that are into motorcycling too, which really does make a lot of sense. You can get a whole lot of machine and all of the experience with the bike for $7,000, $8,000, where you cannot get anywhere near that experience with a car, even on the used market. I mean, give me a break. Have you know what these things are going for? Guys, come on, seriously. And so it was really neat and a lot of fun talking to these guys, both young and young at heart, that were getting into bikes either again for the first time or for the first time in general, you know, the younger folks that were out there. So, and that's what kind of makes it cool for me, being the elder squid. I get to talk to everybody and give my experience with different bikes that I've ridden over the years, either on track, on street, some of the hoony things that I like to find myself in the middle of. And I get to give my experience with these bikes with these folks. And it's just fun watching them experience these bikes through me. And then when they come back, hearing about their experiences as well. So, you know, like I say, there's a seat for every ass when it comes to motorcycles. and you can get into these things with performance envelope that a car just cannot compete with. And I don't mean that just in 0 to 60. And no. I'm talking about a performance in terms of just how it feels to ride the thing. What kind of different senses are hit when you're riding a bike as opposed to being in a car. The fact that, and you'll always hear me say this, you are completing an organism when you get onto a motorcycle. You're not just along for the ride. The bike needs you to exist and to do what it is designed to do. Whereas you got self-driving cars, guys. I mean, you got robots and shit driving that stuff. Motorcycle will always need that human interaction. And that's, if nothing else, there's always going to be an analog part of a bike, and that's the fleshy meat bag that's piloting the thing around. Marvelous is in. I'm doing well. I hope you are as well. Skid's saying it's the flat track racer. It's all good. Those Indian FTRs sound so good. So, so the guys that were buying bikes, one fella was taking possession of a, what the hell was that thing? Scrambler, the 900 Scrambler, though, the one that I like. I'm not a big fan of the 1200 Scrambler. It's just a really big bike. If you are into Scramblers and you're 6'4", 6'5", or 6'2", then the 1200 is going to be the bike for you. If not, let's say you're a chick or you're a smaller dude, or you just like the smaller bike like I do, get the 900. That thing is a badass bike. Now, I love the Scrambler 9. I just absolutely love that. Anyways, he was picking up his bike. In fact, he was going to be part of the video that I was filming today. I flubbed that video 3 or 4 times today, by the way. That there's some back of the, behind the scenes stuff. But anyway, he was picking up his Scrambler. There was another dude that was bringing in a new Tiger, which is a adventure style bike, bringing his Tiger in for his first service, who is looking at a Thruxton. So I was helping him along. Hopefully, watch the live show. Don't forget to take the green bike out and comment when you do. But there was that dude. There was a young girl and her dad who took a couple of bikes out for test rides today. And again, another young fella that was back and forth between a 660 Trident and I think he was looking at the Tiger Sport, which is the 660, which is, again, probably, that's a sweet little bike too. But again, there's so many cool things that are going on, and that place was packed today. I mean, there was folks coming in and out all day long. And so that's something that I was there. I was there at the deal. Actually, I was at the dealership pretty much all day today. And so what I get to do is I get to view motorcycling through the eyes of these folks. And the thing about bikes is that and you'll hear me say this a lot, your skill set is on full public display when it comes to bikes. There ain't no hiding from it. And it kind of is what it is. And people are a lot more humble when something as dangerous as riding a motorcycle is part of the conversation. And there's a certain honesty that comes with people that are big into bikes. There's a certain, you've got some gatekeeper assholes that are out there, but there's a certain coolness and acceptance when it comes to bikes, just different brands of bikes and the different types of motorcycles that are out there. There's a certain acceptance level that people that ride have that, you just don't see that. You don't see the knuckleheads as much as you do with the car scene anyway. So that's another reason why I'm moving away from the car scene. It's too many dumbasses. My God. I mean, and some, not all, but some of the old school dudes are just insufferable to deal with. Oh, FTR does sound good. Oh, they're talking about the Scout. That's what the HD guys wanted in the Bronx. That never came to pass. By the way, it would be cool. You're right, because if Harley would make something that was like a flat track style bike, a little bit more like either a scrambler type bike or a speed twin type of a bike. I don't know what's keeping them from it, but there's a lot of guys that are just like the only problem that I have with Harley-Davidson lately is because the new Harley Sportster is actually a pretty badass bike, powerful as hell, but it's the price of the damn thing. I mean, Harley and Triumph, they're not cheap. Okay, don't get me wrong. The fit and finish on both of them is on par, by the way, with each other. But the problem with Harley is that I never get the sense of fun when it comes to Harley. That brand has done a really good job of ruining the brand for newcomers to motorcycling. Triumph has done probably one of the best as far as being fun. You know, they make a lot of neat, fun, spunky, just playful motorcycles, surprisingly quick motorcycles, but bikes that don't try to, they don't try to mug you. You know what I mean? And the whole Harley thing, I get how I get the Evo motorbikes. Those are all cool. The older vintage bikes are neat just because they're motorcycles. In my head, it's tough to beat some old school, just the way that they look. There's a certain industrial thing about them. But any of the later stuff after that, I don't know. And not like a Buell, not like that. I don't want a sport bike. I want like a standard hot rod, like a Speed Twin Triumph or more Bonneville. What I want the Sportster that Harley-Davidson introduced to compete with the Bonneville. That's really more in the spirit that I would be looking for with a Harley. And but see, the thing is that Harley, just the assholes that we, 1200, that's a girl's bike. Well, not by today's standards. I mean, hell, 1200s are making a lot of horsepower these days. And so, I mean, can we get past that Harley guy? Like, well, it's not a, 104 or 117 cubic inch engine. It's just, it's not a real bike. It's like, guys, man, look, dude, that kind of mentality is why Harley-Davidson's not doing so great. The people that ride them just make assholes of themselves to people that are interested in the bike in general. Like, the thing with Harley is that they've got a really rich history, a lot of cool stuff with the history of those bikes, the club bikes and, the racing back in the day and flat tracking and all of that. All of that stuff is so cool. It's just, to be so cool if Harley could just stop, get over themselves for just a hot minute and get back into what made them so cool back when it was Triumph versus Harley-Davidson. That might be a good way to go about it because, like I say, there's a generation of people right now, generation of youngsters that are just not going to Harley-Davidson dealerships. It's all older folks for the most part that you see in a Harley dealership, and that is not a good thing. There's not a lot of legacy with Harley right now, at least not the way it used to be. Oh, I lost. Ryan's hanging out with Skids. Oh, the CF700. Yeah, the problem with 700 is that, say what you want, it's actually a pretty good bike. Oh yeah, DM saying, yeah, for the feel, sound, style, variety, motorcycle stump, I am mud hole in the car industry. Yep. And the thing is that motorcycle guys, this is what I love about motorcycle guys. I've never met a bike guy that I didn't get along with swimmingly. It didn't matter what their background was, didn't matter what ethnicity, none of that mattered. It was just, you like bikes, I like bikes too. And it was just, you don't get a lot of car guys evolve into motorcycle. Like, you start out with bikes, you get into cars, and then you check out of cars and get back into bikes because you kind of miss the people. And again, you miss motorcycle guys are extremely accepting. And you show up with a Royal Enfield, you can show up with my Cowie, you can show up with a Bonnie, you can show up with a Harley. Everybody's maybe Harley. I don't know. I mean, you get what I'm going with that. Everybody is just so much more accepting and so cool, and everybody wants to share. Like, what makes this bike what it is? Well, dude, check this out. Didn't think about this, but this is what I found out. Da, 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 da. They're really open books too. That's the other fun thing about bikes. So you're saying the Harley-Davidson landscape is improving, less noising in the air towards non-HD riders than 10 to 20 years ago. But my fellow Ducatistas could learn a thing or two. Ain't that the damn truth? Came so close to buying a Ducati Tri-9. I would ask a little bit too much money, but the bike was actually really sweet. Right, so I've never actually met a person that owned a Ducati. I've known a few. Hard Rock saying the comparison is correct. You can get a GSXR 1100 used mint condition for 15, 20 grand. The bike will scare you. Performance, bang for the buck, no comparison versus cars. Actually, let me put it to you another way. You get a 05 GSXR 1000 for about $3,000 to $5,000, and it's making about 180 horsepower. Let me put something in perspective for you. Motorcycle with rider, a heavy one with a heavy rider would be 700 pounds. Okay. I want you to think about this for a minute. Multiply any horsepower number by 6, and that's what your equivalent horsepower to weight ratio is. Realistically, though, you're going to be multiplying it by 7 because 700 pounds usually is going to be too much. You're probably going to be more like 650, 675. Rider and bike full of gasoline, oil, and coolant and ready to go. So if you ever hear a horsepower number for a motorcycle, say, for example, like the Cafe, my Cowie is to the flywheel rated somewhere around 110-ish horsepower, say 110 to 115. Pick a number that sounds good. Let's call it, even if it's 100, let's just use that just because the math is super easy, or 110, all of it's pretty easy. 110 horsepower would translate to 770 horsepower by that math. And the performance of the thing pretty much would agree with that. So that is like it's basically a Hellcat number. 4,200 pounds would be like a naturally aspirated Scat Pack, RT, whatever, 4,200 pounds, a little bit of weight reduction, but you get the idea. Kind of splits the difference between Mustang and, maybe a fully spec'd SRT Charger. So when you hear super bikes that are making, say, 200 horsepower, that's the equivalent of driving a 1,400 horsepower car, like the way that it will accelerate, especially from a roll. So just take that with a grain of salt. That's the reality that we're talking about when we're talking about bikes and what kind of performance envelope they will give you. So in essence, if you went out and bought like an 05 Gixxer 1K and decided that you were going to apply the formula, I mean, damn, dude, you're looking at something around 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower at least, equivalency when you're talking about cars. So that's the scary part about it. Saying I have a passion for motorcycles, period. I'll ride anything at least once. I tell you what, man, I'm the same way. It's rare for me to meet a bike that I just don't get along swimmingly with. DM's hanging out with Ryan. Yeah, right with you, Ryan. I love anything, man. I'm a big fan of every bike though that's out there. Yes, it's Skidsy. Yeah, the dinosaurs are still brand loyal. Most of us are not. Nobody that I know is brand loyal when it comes to bikes. Nobody. Not one person that I've ever met is super brand loyal. I will find myself more attracted to a certain style of motorcycle, and therefore maybe a manufacturer makes more of that style of bike. But I mean, well, now that I think about it, I am a bit of a Triumph simp. But that being said, I do have a Cowie. And by the way, I was happy to be riding the Cowie home. I just, damn, that bike is so good. It's so good. And with the bar and mirrors on it, I don't have the buffeting thing going on anymore. It's even that much better. But again, I don't know anybody that's brand loyal. I mean, look at everything you can pick from. Why would you be brand loyal when motorcycle is the only brand that I'm loyal to? Skids, the Duck Scrambler looks cool in pics, but in my opinion, it looked cheap for a Duck in person. But the new ones I hear are much improved. Go by there and check them out now. They look really good. They're not okay. So the Triumph Scrambler, and again, I'm a Scrambler 9 guy. I'm not really a Scrambler 12 guy. The Scramblers are sharp looking bikes, and I'm telling you, there's always room in the stable for a Scrambler, especially if you need something to be buzzing around in town or you need an all-weather bike. Dude, a Scrambler is pretty tough. Although the adventure bikes are actually really good too. But yeah, Ryan, check out the Scramblers. They're actually picking up a lot in popularity now. Or knuckleheads and flatheads. Yeah. Oh, Skid saying the CF Moto has the 800 NK as well. Competes with the Suzuki GSX-8. That's another funny thing. So motorcycles have grown in displacement because they're playing around with some really weird. It's a what was it, horsepower per cc? Some kind of a regulation out of Europe. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have all the details on this, but anyway, you can pass emissions easier and you can get away with something if you build a bigger bike in a parallel twin as opposed to a smaller bike with a 4-cylinder. Anyway, it's kind of funny because the bikes are getting bigger and they're getting torquier. And with that, a lot of nannies are being put in play. And that means that when you remove the nannies, you can hot rod a bike, and bigger is better when it comes to hot rodding, when it comes to displacement. And so I put it to you like this. My Z900 at, let's say 110 horsepower, say 100 horsepower to the rear wheel, give or take, right? Like right there in the range. That bike, even if I just put the exhaust on it and didn't do anything else to that bike, would go from basically 100 horsepower to 115 horsepower. And again, apply the math, right? So 7 times 50, it's like picking up 75 horsepower. Golly, I mean, how do you, just with an exhaust, it's, the equivalency is, it's crazy. And I'm debating, I think what I'm going to do with my bike, I was thinking about putting the different runners in it, airbox mods and all this other stuff. I think I'm just going to put exhaust in a tune on it, and that's going to be a wrap for that bike. In riding that thing home today, after riding the other bikes that I rode today, that bike ain't giving nothing up. And it's so punchy from a partial throttle hit that it just, I don't want to make things away from it, I feel. And again, this is part wide open throttle. Oh, I just blasted. I screwed my feed all up here. Skids, where did HD hurt you? Man, I tell you what, I like Harleys. That's the thing. I don't know. I never found one that fit right. I know that Harleys are really good when it comes to ergos. And there are some things like the Lowrider. It's a great looking bike. But for some reason, man, I don't know. I just had a couple weird experiences with Harley owners. Not that they don't speak for the entire population. Trust me, I get it. But I don't know. And then I would find other bikes that I was like, oh, I like that thing. And it was out of sight, out of mind, maybe, but they just never made something that really spoke to me the way that I kind of, in a way, wished it would have. And the thing with the Sportster, where did that come from? Harley guys, it's like Harley on Harley violence. Why would you like? I don't get that. That's just so weird, I guess. But then again, I'm coming from a metric place where 1200 cc is a big old bike. So, or at least a very powerful bike, however you want to, spoon it out. Phoenix asking, what are your thoughts on a Gen 1 Raptor 6.2 for a fun project? Good. That 6.2 engine will last a forever long time. Ryan said, HD touched my no square in my pocketbook. Yeah, wallet is where they hurt me. DM say, well said. Do you have the same opinion of the culture? Good people. Absolutely, man. Everybody I've ever met on two wheels, it ends up being like family to me. I don't know why it's like that. It always has been. DM say, oh yeah, 05 Gixxer 1000, one of the best and most sought after motors. Great bike. Hell of a bike, dude. Hell of a bike. Skids, you can find a Japanese 15, 20-year-old leader bike, $3 to $5 grand. Of course, they're not all turnkey. True that, but it's scary how much power is out there. Oh yeah. It's frighteningly fast. Or I'm saying 1,000. Yeah, it's all good, man. Jeremy said it had a Harley Night Rod, sold it, miss it, fun bike. Those were fun bikes. There's a lot of neat Harleys out there. In fact, you know what I'd like to see them do? Oh, what was the movie? Anyway, doesn't matter. Here's what I would like to see. I would like to see Harley-Davidson build a proper Harley cafe bike with a bikini fairing, the whole bit. I would love to see about 115 horsepower, 1200, whatever, doesn't matter. 115, 120-ish, whatever, doesn't matter, horsepower, 1200, come out of Harley that is really in lockstep with either the Bonneville, Speed Twin, or the Thruxton, but I would prefer that they really target the Thruxton. If I were putting this bike together, I would take a look at the Speed Twin and the Thruxton. I would take a look at a Speed Twin with the risers flipped so that it's got a little bit more of an aggressive riding position. I would take that geometry and apply it to that engine and that bike for Harley-Davidson. I know where they're at with the freaking Sportster, whatever. But it's just not good enough for me. I want to see him do that. I want to see him build a proper cafe style Harley, and that would be sick. Because I remember those when I was a kid. And I remember my dad racing a guy with his Z1 with a cafe Harley, or cafe'd out looking Harley, at least to my little ass. That's what I thought it was. It just looked more like some of the older bikes that I would see, like the BSAs and some of the other Triumphs with a fairing. Good looking bike. Sounded good too. Pop smoked ass, but doesn't matter. It's just a cool looking bike. And I remember thinking, damn, that would be a cool bike to have, but I never really, maybe I didn't look hard enough. Maybe this is my fault. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough or didn't dive deep enough into it. But man, I think that's where Harley is kind of missing the boat. They don't have the bikes that the younger crowd is looking for when it comes to something sporty and something cool. It's hard to manufacture cool. And the problem is that Harley will tell you just how cool they are. Just wait. But God, if they would just do something, and I'm saying all that, there's probably, y'all correct me, I'm sure, here in just a second. Well, they came out with this bike and it was a flop. And I would not doubt that for a minute. Skids, the Ninja H2 is a Hellcat as a motorcycle. Yeah, it is. It is sick. Ryan's liking the Busas. Yep. Yeah, the Busas are nice bikes, man. They're bomb proof too. At one point, there are guys using them as cop bikes. Carzilla's liking the Cybertruck technology. Yeah, driving one would be a riot. Yeah, Ryan, that H2 is really fast. Indian Chief is a super cool cruiser. Yeah, it is. The Sport Chief is a good looking hot rod bike too. Hard Rock saying we should bring in Mike Wolf here. He has a great collection. Yeah, he's got a lot of really cool old school vintage bike. Oh, Keys does too. Cool. Him saying, Yeah, Boost is no joke. And yeah, it's solid bike though. Okay. Yeah, Turbo Boost. I mean, the sad thing about a Turbo Boost is you can ride one, never get into the throttle, and as docile as could possibly be. And then out of nowhere, they just turn into just absolute Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type stuff. Oh, Skid saying when I did the Cowie demo, the 900 RS was the best bike I rode all day. I love the 900 RS, man. I am a honk when it comes to those bikes, big time, big time. Patrick, what percent of Harleys are made overseas? I don't know. I have no clue. Damn, if you like the movie Akira, you'll want a Busa. Haven't seen it. Oh, Skid saying why I did buy a new Harley-Davidson at Harley-Davidson, got a hell of a deal at a local bike shop, saved serious coin. I realize folks should not have to go to extremes to obtain motorcycles that speak to them, for sure. Paul saying, see the electric glide in blue. Check it out. Skid saying, I slapped the Memphis Shades Road Warrior fairing on my street bob. Looks good. And oh, I don't miss the Texas wind for sure. I'll tell you what, the best thing I ever did with my bike was get rid of the freaking mirrors, put the bar ends on it. The team said, I looked away when Harley went electric. There's a lot of people looking away from electric bikes right now. And you want to talk about a group of people that do not gravitate to where you would think that bike guys, as accepting as they are, would maybe be okay with electric bikes, but man, there's a lot of folks that have got a lot of opinions about electric bikes, and they are not, how do you say, flattering. One of the dealerships, there's a brand called Zero, and I was just really dogging on these bikes. I've got zero interest in the brand Zero. The range sucks. If you play around with the bike, it's just really not there. They take forever to charge back up. And riding a bike is the noise. It's the sound of the thing. And it's the freedom of the thing, the freedom of the open road, the freedom to feel what this thing feels like. And yeah, torque's great, but the sense of the engine and mechanical stuff going on, that's what you're into. And it's not freedom if it takes 8 hours to charge something as opposed to 8 minutes to fill her up. Skid saying the new Sportster is the Nightster 975. The big issue is, of course, the money, but it's a fun bike, demoed one, very snappy. I've heard good things about it. But lots of money. What is it, like $14,000 or $18,000 for that thing? I paid half of that for the monomill. No bikes 100%. Leave it at that. Oh, the E-Ninja is out there. Trying Ducati are working on e-bikes as well. The thing is that you've got companies that are kind of getting kicked out of different dealerships. And I know that it's a thing to do. I don't know that it's the thing to do if you're a motorcycle manufacturer. At some point, it's going to be who's got the baddest electric motorcycle, right? And of course, Kawasaki probably going to be on the top of that. But what's Harley's position with e-bikes right now? Are they staying the course, or are they moving away from it? Are the e-bikes just going to be more of a flash in the pan type of thing? That's another scary thing about that is, no pun intended with the way they seem to catch on fire, by the way, but not the bikes, the cars. I'm curious on that. And by the way, I am not anti e-bike. I'm absolutely not that guy. And you could probably put me on one, and I just like every other motorcycle, I've never met a motorcycle that I don't seem to like. They all seem to follow me home once I ride them. By the way, that 765R, whoa, neat little bike. But I just, man, I just don't want, I don't know. It's just, I'm not there. This is a weird one for me. I don't know what to think when it comes to electric motorcycles, because part of me, because I know electricity well enough, I know that it would be a really strong performer, and I know that it would do a lot of really cool things, and it can be extremely fast, fun, everything, all of that. But then there's a part of me that, see, the problem, okay, here's what I love about bikes. They're not all perfect. The cool thing about motorcycles is that they all have their own personality. That Speed Twin that I rode today, a little bit different personality than the Bonneville that I rode today, with significant different personality than the 765 that I rode. You know, the Bonneville being the torquiest, the Speed Twin being a great overall, just throw the torque at you kind of bike. The 765, you know, high revving, buzzy little thing. Each one of these things has its own personality. What I don't want, and this is the problem with electric bikes, what I don't want is to be sold an electric bike because it makes all these torques. We've got Torquey covered with parallel twins and V twins. We don't really need another Torquey thing. Why not come out with a rotary engine motorcycle or a radial engine? I mean, something that's just goofy out there, right? But I guess where I'm coming with this is, if we're talking about electric, which is really what we're talking about right now, I just don't, there's nothing about an electric motorcycle that really gets me going, because one electric motorcycle, I hate to say it like this, but electric motors make power in a certain kind of way. They make all their torque from dead stop, from zero, and they fade out the higher you spin them, depending on speed controllers and windings and magnets and things like that. But the generality can just serve to prove a point here. They're all going to ride about the same. They're going to be punchy down low. They're going to do a lot of those neat things, and they're just going to be the only thing that's going to differentiate one from the next to the next is the nanny that keeps it from looping, just given how much throttle you're giving it. Too much power is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not necessarily a good thing. And just because you're phasing in power with an electric bike, and it feels like, say, a 765R or, you know, an XSR 900, it doesn't mean that, and then you think, okay, well, I'm not really getting all the power I could out of this thing. How do I get more power out of this? Or how do I change driver command torque figures with this bike? Whereas the engine itself, the motorcycle, the motor that we're talking about motorcycle, the engine, that's the character, that's the personality. And I don't care. Listen, performance is one thing, but when it comes to motorcycles, you cannot point to scoreboard when it comes to motorcycles. This is another reason why I've really found myself moving away from cars in general and moving more into bikes. Specifications for motorcycles are irrelevant. Displacement numbers, horsepower numbers, torque numbers, they only mean something to the uninitiated. If you look at a motorcycle and somebody says, well, that thing makes 85 horsepower and 80 foot-pounds of torque, what does that even mean? That can mean a million different things for this bike. I mean, the Bonneville, is it, you know, a big cruiser? What exactly are we talking about? The specifications take a major back step to the riding experience. And that's the neat thing about bikes. You can talk about it's 200 horsepower. You'll already shut down a bunch of people. It's okay. 200 horsepower. Here we go. You know, all right. You know, speed racer, you're doing, 200-mile-an-hour pulls with that thing all the time. Because if you're not, what's the point of even having it? But again, it's the riding experience that is so good that the specifications only serve to let you know what you're working with. I mean, we all want to, know these types of things, but you'd be surprised. The Bonneville that only makes 80 horsepower, but under partial throttle, it's surprisingly snappy and surprisingly torquey. That's the cool thing about that bike. So, you can say what you will about different bikes and different brands and everything else, but at the end of the day, they're all so very cool, and they're all really good at a thing that another one might not be. That's the other cool thing about it. To compare one to the next is really difficult, and that's what I like about it, because they're all so fun and they're all so good. Skid's saying no electric bikes for him, for sure on that. I get that. Only if you have ever owned that little Honda electric. Yeah, something small. Like if you've got the range and you've got the just run an electric, they can be very convenient, provided that you are in a very specific set of circumstances that allows for that. Ryan's liking the Hilux. Those are, yeah, for sure. Old school Hilux are sweet. Oh yeah, if you got a short commute round trip, Skid, absolutely. E-bike would be, or anything would be good. Ryan's liking the Hilux. Let's see. 3-liter. Yeah. Be very quiet. Electric dirt bikes are actually kind of fun. Those things are actually a bit more intriguing to me. But guys, with that, I do have to split. Coming up on an hour and a half. Hey, listen, guys, want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out. Would not do this without you. Love each and every one of y'all. Listen, get out there and do something cool for somebody, because chances are they need it way more than you know. And fellas, we will catch y'all on the next one. Be on the lookout. We've got the T-Bird and the Bonnie going to be showing up here hopefully next week, kind of late Thursday-ish, Friday-ish next week. The Daytona goes out for another spa treatment, and we're just going to keep having fun with the Z900 because that bike is awesome. So with that, guys, that's a wrap. Adios.